Today we're going to talk about converting fractions. Converting means to change. So basically we're talking about changing fractions from the fraction form into the decimal form. Some are easy if you just think about money. So if I have half of a dollar, I have 50 cents. And if I have a fourth of a dollar, how many quarters do I have? I have 1 quarter, 25 cents. If I have 1/100th of a dollar, I have 1/100th, and that's just 1 penny. There are 100 pennies in a dollar. So if I have one of those, I have 1 penny. 1/10 equals 0.101, that's 1/10. And that is the same thing as 1 dime because it takes 10 dimes to get to a dollar. So on some basic fractions, I like to think about money. If I went back here to 1/4, there's 4 quarters in a dollar, so one of those would be 25 cents. If I had 2/4, that means I'd have 2 quarters, I'd have 50 cents. If I had 3/4, I would have 75 cents. So some of those are very easy for me to think about. Here I could go back to the dimes. If I had 2/10, I'd have 20 cents. So I like to think about it in money. So some may not seem easy, but they are. This is back to that money. If I have 1/5 of a dollar, I have 20 cents because 5 groups of 20 would give me a dollar. I also know that 20 nickels equals a dollar. So in the same way, if I had 2/5, I'd have 0.40. I just kind of double that number. But the ones that aren't so easy to think about money, there's a simple process. You simply divide the denominator into the numerator. So I divide the denominator into the numerator. So it's set up like this: 5 outside of the house, 1 inside the house. And usually, when it's doing like this, the first thing I do is I go ahead and I put a decimal point and I put at least 1 0. Now, does this still equal 1? Yes, it does. 1 equals 1.0, 1 equals 1.00, 1 equals 1.0. You can just add as many after the decimal point, and it doesn't change the value. So when we are dividing with decimals, the decimal moves straight up on top of the house, and then I don't worry about that decimal anymore. So I think in my head, can 5 go into 1? No, it cannot. So then I'll say, well, can 5 go into 10? Because once I've moved my decimal up here, I don't have to worry about it in my question anymore. So I can think, yes, 5 does go into 10. How many times does 5 go into 10? It goes into it 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract. There's nothing to bring down, so I'm through. So 1/5 equals 2/10. It's just good math manners to always have that 0 in front so you know where you are. So 1/5 equals 2/10. Now I can put that 0 here, and 20/100ths is the same thing. So that's what we do. So I want to look at a couple of others for practice. I have the fraction 4/5. I'm going to divide the denominator into the numerator. So I'm going to say 5 goes into 4. How many times? Well, it can't. So I'm going to go ahead and add my decimal point and a 0 because that still equals 4. Now, once I have a decimal point, I'm going to move it to the top of the house, right above where it was, and not worry about it anymore. So, now I could add as many zeros as I wanted to here. I could add several. And we'll just see if we need them all. So 5 can't go into 4, but 5 can go into 40. How many times does 5 go into 40? Or 5 times what gives me 40? And I hope you're all quickly thinking 8. So 8 times 5 is 40. I subtract. And all I have now are zeros to bring down. So basically, I'm through. So I know that 4/5 equals 8/10. Let's move on to the next one. 1/8. Not quite as simple, but it's easy to do. The answer's not as simple, but it's just as easy to do. So I'm going to divide the denominator into the numerator. So I'll add my decimal point and I'll put it on top of the house and a 1. So we'll just add the zeros as we need them. 8 can't go into 1, but 8 can go into 10. How many times? It goes into it 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract. I still have something here, so I'm going to add a 0 to bring down to see if I can finish out my problem neatly. So I'm going to say 8 into 20. That goes 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16. I subtract, I get 4. As long as I'm getting something here, I think I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. But I like what's happened here. 8 into 40 goes 5 times. 5 times 8, 40, subtract. There's nothing here, so I don't need to go any further. So I know right now that 1/8 equals 0.125 or 125 thousandths. Okay? Now I'm going to look at one that's even more interesting. 1/3. What decimal does it equal? Well, I divide the denominator into the numerator. I add a decimal and I put it up on top, and then I don't worry about it till I'm giving my answer. 3 goes into 10. How many times? 3 times what gets you close to 10 without going over? It's a 3. 3 times 3 is 9. If I subtract, I have 1 left over, so I'm going to add another 0 to bring it down. 3 goes into 10. How many times? 3. 3, 6, 9. 1. I'll add a 0. Do you see a pattern? This is going to go on forever. This is a pattern that goes on forever. So we can kind of just stop it as we round this off. And we'll think that 1/3 of a dollar is about 33 cents because that goes on forever. I can put a little symbol up here of a line, and that tells me it goes on forever. So you're going to look at some converting fractions into decimals. Remember, you simply divide the denominator into the numerator.